This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Hey guys, Jay here, welcome to Models Memories Weekly, episode 278. Models Memories is a show about nothing and is filmed in front of a live studio audience. This is a show where we're talking about painting, modeling, and wearing experiences from the week. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, Jay, you put out 3 videos a week. How? Could I possibly have more to say? Well, I do, and here goes. For the last few weeks, Games Workshop has been doing something cute, where they've been asking for player feedback on who's been winning games, Orcs or Space Marine players, and they've been pretending that that information is being used for what things that they're going to show off with the new Armageddon boxes. They've been showing it off on their website, Warhammer Community, and if you need your own website, then today's sponsor Squarespace can help with that. Squarespace allows anyone to design the website of their dreams with the most powerful and easiest design tools in the industry, like Design Blueprint. Using AI technology empowers anyone to build a more personalized website tailored to their needs, crafting a bespoke digital identity. Choose from a professionally curated selection of styling options to build a unique online presence from the ground up. Squarespace makes sure it's easy to launch your website and get discovered fast with integrated optimized SEO tools, so you show up more often to more people and grow the way you want. With Squarespace, it's never been easier to set up a unique online storefront. Whether your services are physical, digital, or service-based, selling your wares has never been easier. Squarespace offers an unmatched ability to showcase your unique wares with images, videos, reviews, and add-ons, all capped off with their seamless checkout tools, letting your customers use whatever system they prefer, whether Klarna, ACH Direct Deposit, Apple Pay, Afterpay, or ClearPay. Squarespace offers a 14-day free trial if you're dip your feet into and test the waters and ready to dive in head first. You can go to squarespace.com/EonsOfBattle or follow the link in the description to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. With the Siege of Deathmire, supposedly the Orcs have clawed back a victory, and so Games Workshop decided to show off some new Orc miniatures. Well, some somewhat new Orc miniatures. These are refreshed Ork Boys. Ork Boys have been on quite a journey, and it seems like potentially Orcs were planned to be in some other launch box, but they kind of got scrapped. It's very weird because there's the 1999 Ork Boys, which I believe got 1 extra sprue in 2004, and then those were the Orcs forever and ever until, when did the new Ork Boys come out? Like 2020, 2021, where we got a sprue of monopose Ork Boys that seemed like they would have been in some kind of a duels box or launch box, and it didn't come with all of the parts you necessarily needed. I think you might have gotten a rocket launcher and a big shooter, but you didn't get like options for the knob. You didn't get all of the parts that you absolutely needed to put together a boys squad, so they never stopped selling the 1999 Ork Boys, and those were still pretty much the ones people used, even though the new monopose boys were pretty good. But now we have new Ork Boys. Well, we have new Ork Boys in the monopose Ork Boys that come in the Armageddon box, which are very nice. I got to see Nick's, he put together so many of them. But now we've got new Ork Boys coming in multi-part plastic. And these guys do look very, very nice. Now they have Slugga, Choppa, and Shooda on every single Ork Boy, or at least the rules stipulate that every single Orc is carrying them. And looking at the pictures from the Games Workshop article, it does look like every boy does have a Slugga, a Choppa, and a Shooda, which is a major help. There was something to the Shooda Ork Boy of old because it was an option. You could either have like a close combat focused Orc, or you could have an Orc with a Shooda who just fought with his fists. And there was something to it because you did get an obnoxious number of shots. If you had an ability to like give sustained hits or make your Orcs shoot just a little bit better, there could totally be something to just shooting a whole bunch of Daka shots before charging into close combat. And now that every Orc is just gonna get to do that for free essentially, it does make the classic Ork Boy just that much spicier. These guys are pretty good. They're definitely better than the old new monopose Ork Boys. And they are spicy. Interestingly, you can now take a Burna in the squad. I think Burnas are D3 strength 4 torrent, probably ignores cover, 1 damage. Like it's a little something, and being torrent, it's technically better because you're gonna hit automatically, and so you get past Ork Boy's very bad ballistic skill. And then there's probably something to the rocket launcher because you have like a 16% chance of just exploding 1 Space Marine. So probably worth it on the rocket launcher. The big Shooda is fun. I think everybody loves a big Shooda, but chances are just 1 boy with a Slugga Choppa would be a better include. But maybe he gets his Choppa in addition to his big Shooda. And then the knob. The Knob is fantastic, big, large, and in charge with weapon options. We've got the axe, which probably is going to have the new rule cleave, giving you extra attacks depending on how many enemy units are in the squad you're fighting, or the good old-fashioned power claw. We have not seen a power claw in a hot minute. Like it is the orky weapon. It's the orc version of a power fist. Incredibly good, incredibly powerful, and it's what you want to see. At least one power claw in every squad of Ork Boys. Typically, like when the Ork Boys pile in, the war boss and then the Knob with the power claw is the things that do, like they do half the damage themselves, and then all of the other boys swinging with their swords does the other half of the damage. If that, depending on what kind of strength and toughness they're going into. I think these guys look really good. They've got some interesting squigs. The Knob has just like a classic little chicken squig running around, but then there's a weird little pancake Muppet man on one of the orc spaces. It's the weirdest little thing. It kind of reminds me of, in the Cities of Sigmar range, there's a lot of these like weird little fellas. I think they're pulled from classic, like not Renaissance art, even before that, like just the weird little like snails with legs, or a tiny little knight, or like a little half horse, half fish creature. They're just kind of randomly sprinkled in the Cities of Sigmar sets. And it seems like nobody really cares. They haven't really grabbed the community like things like the crab, or there was a bird that was also pretty funny. But they're just these little fellas, and it seems like the squigs are also kind of just becoming little fellas randomly sprinkled into some of these kits. But that guy is really, really weird. I dig him, but it's just a silly looking thing. These new Ork Boys are looking really, really spicy. And supposedly this was the orcs pulling out some victories over the Space Marines, but we have seen some Space Marine releases too that are probably equally impressive. In the first week, Space Marines got shown off, a unit that we've kind of been like hoping for forever, but it's not the most exciting thing in the world, and it's bikes. Bikes have been the original bikes from Indomitus. That's when we first saw the Space Marine Outriders. I actually bought another set on eBay because they were cheap at the time. And so I've got 2 squads of Indomitus Outriders. They're great. In game, they're okay. They're, I think, 3 bodies with toughness 5 and 5 wounds apiece. It's 4 or 5 wounds apiece. Really, really good. Just units on the board for cheap, but in terms of damage potential, it's kind of nothing. They each get 2 bolters taped together and 1 chainsword. Not a lot of actual damage potential, and even if you attach an Outrider ATV and a Chaplain on bike and kind of really turn it into something, it's still not that good. There is something to giving it devastating wounds. I can't remember if it's the Chaplain who can grant the whole squad devastating wounds or if it's a stratagem, but I did play it a couple of times, and in theory, this unit can generate like 10 plus mortal wounds, but I'm pretty sure when I used it against Sean, I generated 3. So it was not really worth like the 300 point investment that the squad ended up being, but it was still kind of interesting. And with this new box of Outriders, they look exactly the same as the Indominus ones. However, there are now weapon options for the Sergeant. He can have a plasma pistol and a heavy weapon, or a special weapon, a power weapon, or a thunderhammer. Thunderhammer is probably the one to go with, and just by virtue of him getting a special weapon and a plasma pistol, probably means the squad is like 15 to 20% more impactful on the game, because previously they really didn't do much of anything, and now they'll like on average kill at least 1 Space Marine. So that's definitely a major improvement for the Outrider squad. And it does mean that I'm gonna have to go to my collection and start snapping off some arms so that I can put some thunderhammers on my Outriders. That is a little bit spicy and a little bit special. I still think that Outriders need a little something. Like a White Scars army might contain 3 squads of Outriders, but they're not gonna do a whole lot. If Games Workshop wanted to bring back an absolute blast from the past, they should let you take a Tech Marine on bike, which used to be a thing, and then Tech Marines used to be able to take a weapon called the Conversion Beamer. And that actually could be another way to make the squad that much more impactful. It would be very similar to the Outrider ATV, but maybe the conversion beamer can be a little bit more anti-tanky, and multi-meltas are supposed to be anti-tank, but they're not. They're really bad at cracking armor. So maybe the conversion beamer could be a little something better, or at least give you some more like anti-Space Marine threats. I don't know, definitely bike-heavy Space Marine armies definitely need a little help somewhere. But that was not the only thing that the Space Marines got. Drum roll, please. They got an Ultramarines fella, Caius Connorus. It's just a one Ultramarine guy. He kind of looks like a Victrix Honor Guard. Presumably he'll be able to attach to the Victrix Honor Guard. And knowing the Ultramarines and how Games Workshop loves to write rules for them, he'll be allowed to attach to anything and he'll make something really, really good. It looks like he's got 2 close combat weapons or 2 master crafted power weapons, which probably means he's going to be an excellent, excellent melee character. Ultramarines already have the best close combat unit available to Space Marines in the Victrix Honor Guard, so it only makes sense that they're gonna now have the best combat character. Something similar from Black Templars would probably be the Execrator, which is our chaplain that holds 2 weapons, and he gets a decent number of attacks and no good rules, and he's kind of It's hard to want to include him in lists because even at his very cheap points cost, he doesn't do anything for the squad. And Black Templar close combat units, really any Space Marine combat unit does need help once they get to close combat to make sure that they can actually do the damage they need to do. This guy is probably excellent, probably better than the Black Templar's Execrator. I'm definitely not salty that Ultramarines are the best way to run close combat Space Marines. I guess there's also Blood Angels and there's Dark Angels, which also both of those can do close combat better than the Black Templars. But Black Templars do still win out because we're cooler. We might not have access to all of these interesting things, but we're still the coolest Space Marines. Those are the new things that have so far shown off to go alongside the new Orks vs. Space Marine Armageddon box. Overall, it's fine. The new Ork Boys are pretty darn cool. Other than that, I don't think it's anything that's gonna shake up the meta too hard. But speaking of the meta and speaking of gaming, the Dragonfall Charity Gaming Festival is coming up relatively soon. The first weekend of October, the 2nd, the 3rd, and the 4th, at the beautiful Grand Geneva Resort in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. The last time I went, I had a glorious time. I played in the 5-round casual 40K, but this time I'm thinking I go hard into the grand tournament and try to see if I can actually win some really competitive games of 40K. It's gonna be a great time. It's got tournaments, hobby seminars, a painting competition, and players screaming wah! Because you have to announce that you're wahing if you're playing the orcs so that you have your go turn and everybody knows it. It's a lot of fun. If any of you guys are interested in attending the Dragonfall Charity Gaming Festival, we got some 3-day passes to give away. If you leave a comment on this video and then click a link in the description to fill out a form, then you can be entered to win. If you think you can attend, this is a great way to get your pass for free. There's still a little bit of time between now and October, which is good because I'm a little out of practice with Warhammer 40,000 and I still basically have to learn 11th edition because I've only played 2 games so far and I need to bump those numbers up if I'm gonna be playing competitive. And I'll probably be playing my Black Templar, so it's gonna be an even bigger uphill struggle, but I am ready for it. And speaking of ready for it, the new Siege of Deathmire has shown off some new detachments for the Orcs and the Space Marines. Games Workshop says that it's so far been such a tie that they've actually created a detachment for both the Orcs and the Space Marines, but in reality, they were always planning on doing it this way, and so they had one detachment point attachments ready for both of these factions. The Space Marine one seems okay. For 1 detachment point, you can't ask for too much, but I would say this one is pretty strong. If you are a jetpack Space Marine, then you can have reroll hit rolls of 1 if you arrive from reserve or if you made a charge this round. That's pretty decent. That's like a 16% buff in your output. Probably a little bit less because you'll roll at least 1 back into another one, but that's perfectly fine. And then there is a stratagem that can give you +1 strength. And that actually is really solid because it can buff any Space Marine infantry, not just the jump pack guys. It works well in the jump pack guys because you could be taking regular assault intercessors with jump packs and going from 4 to 5 means you're wounding Space Marines on 3s. Or if you're going with the new Vanguard veterans with jump packs, then you're going from 5s to 6s, which is really good because now you're wounding toughness 5 orcs on 3s. So overall, it is very powerful. I would say that this would be a really good detachment for the Black Templars, potentially. Although Gladius and Bastion are both 3 detachment point detachments, Bastion is specifically 3 detachment points only for the Black Templars, just so that we don't get to have any extra fun. But this would synergize decently with some of our actual Black Templars detachments, and probably beats out any of our actual Black Templars 1 detachment point detachments. It's probably as good as with the Heroes of the First Company, the Sword Brethren detachment. It does have that one really good stratagem, but reroll hit rolls of 1 is pretty solid, and all you have to do is charge to get those, so that could be pretty army-wide. Yeah, it's okay. I think this will be one to play around with. The Ork one is maybe a little bit more techy, but maybe a little bit more better. This detachment gives 3 Ork infantry units Scout 6. Now, as somebody who plays a lot of Kroot, where my entire army has Scout 7, a Scout 6 can be really, really solid. It can kind of mean the difference between like buying 2 trucks for your boys and leaving the trucks at home, and then just turn 1 being able to scout into no man's land, and then hopefully in your turn 1, getting to stage them into position for your WOG turn. That is a really, really good ability. Especially, there's a detachment. Is it the Take It All or Mordaka? There's an Ork 1 detachment point detachment that gives you, I think, does it give you Infiltrate? No, it gives you the Reposition, where after you're done deploying, you can reposition up to 3 Ork units. So this could be a really interesting where you've got like 3 Ork Boys squads and you just set them up wherever you want. And then you reposition them and then you scout them. That can definitely give you a lot of really interesting things that you can do with your orcs to get them ready to rock and roll. And then there are some enhancements for war bosses and the Beastnaga version of a war boss. One of them gives you a 3-up fight on death. That's a 2-up fight on death during the WOG turn. It's fine. That can be really powerful. If your opponent like threw something into you that just wiped your Orc Boy squad out, but then you just get 1 more fight with your war boss, which will hopefully kill a good amount of the thing that just wiped you out. That's pretty darn solid. And then there's another enhancement that can give you a 3-inch plus D3 reactive move if something moves within 8 inches of your warboss unit. That can be really, really solid. If your opponent wasn't able to get beautifully like right in your face to prepare a charge, if you can just scoochy 4 or 5 inches away, that can basically shut down a charge pretty easily. So I think that could be really solid. Like a squad of Incubi for Dark Eldar will just blend an Ork Boy squad. But if they just don't get to do that, chances are like Dark Eldar really need everything to kind of go right. And usually they can make that happen with how crazy their transport rules are. But if you can just turn it off, then that can be really solid. And even if your opponent knows that that's coming up, just having the opportunity of saying like, hey, this is going to be a lot harder than you think it's going to be. So maybe you don't even want to initiate the process to begin with. That can still be a really powerful tool in your toolbox. Orcs do need all the help they can get. They can take a lot of units, but they are still a close combat focused army. So it's easy for them to start to fall apart if they charge in and they do some damage, but then all of their charging units get wiped out. It's hard to have that like second tier of your engine still moving forward to win you the game. So I think these sort of techie things are all really interesting. And it's just a 1 detachment point detachment. I think it's really solid and it can give Orc players a lot of options. Honestly, the Orcs are looking pretty darn good in 11th edition. 11th edition has given some big support to close combat focused armies in general. And I think that this is going to be a really good one. Definitely looks a little spicier than the Space Marine one. Although the Space Marine one is fine, I think I'm just a little salty that the Black Templars, we're still kind of struggling. It's just our rules. The actual Black Templars Codex could use a little touching up. But you know what absolutely does not need a touch up? All of the amazing hobby products available from EonsOfBattle.com. Over there, we're all restocked on our excellent hobby goodies: Gamer Grass Tufts, Grey Tide Studio Bits for your Space Marines, Army Painter paints, brushes, basing cork, ultra thin and ultra thick super glue, and we've got terrain. It's the best way to support us doing what we do by getting a membership. Each month, members get a credit good for any one terrain pack I've ever made, or the brand new one. This July, we have created the Bocage Battlefield Terrain, a series of pieces perfect for putting together a historic landscape for games of Conflict 47, Bolt Action, or any other war zone with a labyrinth of overgrown hedgerows. These pieces will funnel your infantry into tight firefights while hiding the mysterious shack. Maybe it's just a utility building, or maybe it's an improvised encampment, hiding some flesh-eating zombies kept on ice for the right moment to unleash a devastating outbreak. This set was designed by us and is available at EonsOfBattle.com. Games Workshop has so far shown off some less than exciting things, I would say, for the Orcs and the Space Marines, but one thing that is almost certainly coming in the pipeline is new Ludas and Burnas. They've been missing from the Games Workshop web store forever now. They're really, really old and they're beloved. I'm sure that we're gonna get some new Ludas and Burnas. I wanna see them, and I honestly kind of hope that they don't change them too much, because currently they're very, very cheap and I think totally usable in game. But I could see them, if they made them better, they could start to struggle a little bit. I feel like Space Marines also fall into this trap all the time, where almost all of our units are like 100 or 150 points. There's nothing in that like 110, 120 point range, which is really annoying, because like sometimes you're just like, I need one more unit that's like pretty solid. I can't afford the 80 units available to me that are all 150 points plus. But I need something a little bit more than a scout squad. And so I really wish that they would write some rules that are like fine or okay, something that really fits nicely into that 100-point range. And Ludas and Burnas fit that to a T. Like Ludas are almost free at 50 points, and you reinforce that to a 100-point squad, all of a sudden you got like on average 3 Space Marines that you can guarantee dead. That is not bad at all, and it's still some really cheap bodies. I'm looking forward to that. I'm sure there's probably some other stuff to be shown off for the Orcs, and for Space Marines, it's hard to predict anything. Space Marines have 5 of everything, so I can't imagine what's left in the pipeline for Space Marines, but I'm sure Games Workshop will think of something. Thanks for watching.